Hello again, everybody. This is Steve. Picking up from where we left off last time, I was going to talk about Subton. This is one of the important cities in the book. This is also a very modern city. It's very much the exception in Offworld, not the rule. And the thing that will jump out at some people, and I'm sure you've already seen this, is the fact that technology varies a lot on the planet. I think I've mentioned this already. The explanation for that, the very simple explanation, is that over time, as people came in, they brought in different bits of expertise. So some people brought in older expertise, some brought in newer expertise. Some of this is local to the planet, stuff that was actually developed on Offworld that like parallels what was happening on Earth. So you could have people that came with that knowledge, and they came with that knowledge and they brought it with them, and they added it to the knowledge base of the planet. And some of this was just things that people did themselves. There was no outside input, especially if you look at some of the technology that's further down the trail. Because further down the trail you go, and this isn't necessarily true always. I mean, you look at Logan Town and some of the others, they're very primitive. But then you get to other places, and that's like, wow, look at all this technology, you know. So it's partially what was the local population were like, what did they have, what could they achieve, what did they achieve, what found its way to them. So basically what was locally created, what was brought in from the outside, etc., like that. So that's one of the reasons why there's such a variety of technology. There's other things that were created or acquired, or created by or acquired from the controllers. Because one thing you'll find out as you go along is not every controller is bad. Everyone on the Brotherhood is. The Brotherhood's rotten to the core. There's just no good people. Section 17, yeah, they've got some good apples mixed in with the bad ones. You're going to see that, which is kind of, again, that is a mirror of real life, that even in the most evil organizations, you're still going to have some good, some good people in there. They're going to be not maybe textbook knight in shining armor good, but they will be a good person, relatively speaking, or at least in comparison to their co-workers and their fellow partners in crime, if you will. Anyways, the city of Subton is one of these places that has done several things. One, you have a lot of local talent, very smart people. You also have a lot of ingressed technology that found its way in through a variety of means. Some of it was sourced, like they actually went out looking for these people and brought them in. Some of it was just it found its way there for various reasons and in various ways. Some of it was locally created. Some of it was acquired. Like 3 of the submarines that they have, the Calypso is one of them. That was built using imported knowledge, local knowledge, and captured controller tech. Also some captured controller tech or controller knowledge. Because the controllers aren't really that good about keeping their stuff under control so that the people of the planet don't get it. Some of that's laziness. Some of it's just bad management. Some of it, like if a shuttle crashes, for example, like I mentioned, Garloon accidentally knocked he crossed paths with a shuttle, and the shuttle came out the worse for it. It crashed, and of course the controller's going to look at it and go, yeah, it crashed, we don't need it anymore. It just abandoned it in place, and then smart people come by and go, oh, controller attack, and they suck up that shuttle and take it with them, which is how the Calypso and the other 2 like it got their some of the technology they have. Because like I said, to the controllers, it's crashed, it's junk, we don't need it anymore. They don't bother cleaning it up. They just leave it, wherever it landed, they leave it. And people come in and they scoop that up. You're going to see that also in Book 7. Well, end of Book 6, beginning of Book 7. Some more examples of that, of captured or recovered or salvaged controller tech that was, shuttle went down. Somebody went in, hey, look, this stuff's still working. Let's go and incorporate it into other things that we, where we can put it to use. So, little bit of a blending of the hyper advanced and the somewhat primitive. Subton itself is classified as a city-state. A city-state being it's a small nation centered around a single city. It would be like saying Los Angeles is a city-state. Kind of that idea, where the whole city itself is self-supporting, it's its own nation, it's got its borders, its own government and everything. It's independent from everybody else. It's its own thing. Well, that's what Subton is. Subton also is one that has ingested a number of racers. One of them being Clifford Weiss. He was the commander on a U.S. nuclear submarine, and he ends up getting, he's one of those ones that he's one of those exceptions, kind of like Simon is, where he's older, but he's brought in by the controllers, and he ends up finding his way to Subton. And there's no story really behind it, but basically, in my understanding, if I remember my notes right, he was one of those ones that was a quote-unquote special acquisition, where he was brought there specifically to fill a role. And once the role was done, he was kind of, you're on your own. He's not an actual racer, even though he was brought in the same as all the other people, and he's got the implants and everything else like that. So he's qualified as a racer. He could go to the end and win the race. It's just that he didn't have to do the first and second hextants like everybody else did. He was just kind of like brought in, used for a thing, and then just thrown to the side. And then Subton caught wind of him, picked him up, and brought him over. So, like I say, he's kind of an exception. Which there are exceptions, and one of the things that's funny too about the controllers is they have consistency problems, which is ironic because it's very realistic, but at the same time that actually kind of helped me because I wasn't locked into this black and white rule set for the controllers, because they were a very, very complex, very difficult thing to work with. And by having it where, it's just kind of arbitrary how they enforce their rules, that actually worked out because that made it easier to work with them. And it still mimics real life because, you're not necessarily going to have an organization or every organization that's going to just follow all of its rules in a black and white way, considering the fact that one part of this, or the syndicate, is very, very evil. They're also very self-serving. They're arrogant. They're selfish. Things like that. And if you watch the Brotherhood, there is a lot of infighting, power playing, infighting, different demons playing off against each other. So you have that. Then you have that same interplay inside of Section 17, but to a lesser degree. Because in Section 17 you have good guys and you have bad guys. It's a little hard to tell who's who, but my cat's on a screaming spree tonight. He don't worry, he's completely fine. He's just over here having one of his weird moments because he's an old cat, so I think he's having like mental issues or something. But he'll just come through and he's either being a cat or he's just having old guy issues. But anyways, yeah, either way he's fine, so don't worry about him. Anyways. Where was I at? Oh yeah. Anyways, you've got Section 17 to a lesser degree kind of has that same interplay. Good guys, bad guys, different people playing different pawns, and Section 17 is playing against the Brotherhood, and the Brotherhood's playing against Section 17. So there's a lot of moving parts on this chessboard. So, and that also, just all of that interplay creates a natural inconsistency. Which, actually, like I say, that actually helped me because then I didn't have to stick 100% to they do this and they do it this way and it's always this way and there's no change, and then you find out later on, oh crap, that doesn't work later on in the book. With this interplay going on, and I could then take and make a steer left, steer right, and stuff, and get away from problems and still keep consistent to the story. So, for those of you who do writing, that's a way to solve problems, is just kind of look at the politics of the groups that you're working with and how can you use those to weasel your way around problems that you didn't see at the beginning but all of a sudden pop up later on and you're like, uh-oh, got to fix that. How do I fix this? Oh yeah, well okay, we'll just take them on this left turn here. So just something to think about. Anyways, what was I thinking of? Oh yeah, one of the things too is Subton is inside of Unity territory, and the Unity Empire had tried to go up against Subton, but because of their advanced technology, the Unity Empire and even Sheffield on a couple of occasions tried it. Yeah, they didn't come out that great for it. It kind of ended up on the bad end of that. So, but yeah, the city's only about 150,000 people. That's in the city proper. That's basically where's my mouse? There's basically this thing right here. There's farmland around it. They've got oil wells. They've got factories. It's not all just like suburbs and stuff. There's industry. There's farming. There's all of this within like 325, 350 square miles. I'm trying to remember how big that is. I think it's like 350 square miles, something like that. But so yeah, it's a nation state, and they just give Sheffield and Unity they're just a pain in their butt. And the fun thing is at the end of book 2, when the path is cleared for the racers, the path to expand for Subton is opened up, because Subton is boxed in prior to book 3. When the Four Kingdoms go away, and that's explained in the book why that happens and all the details. Just the fact they go away is not really spoiling anything. I keep saying that because I know some of you are gonna be like, "Oh, you spoiled the book." No. Oh, trust me, I'm not even like I say, doing a light brush across this. I'm just hitting the very, very, very highest points. There is so much other stuff going on. You got to read the book, because no matter how much I do here, there is so much in those books and so many moving parts and stuff that I couldn't spoil this if I tried. But the only way I could spoil this if I actually read it, and then it's not really even spoiling it then. So, anyways. What was one of the other ones? I think I had one after Subton. Okay, maybe not. Let's see here. Oh, that's what it was. Forlorien. Forlorien is after the sub... Well, actually, let's take this one step further, because the next place after Subton is the Westlands. The Westlands is kind of like, you step into the 1800s Wild West, which is another thing, too, is you see a lot of different cultures in this book and along the race course and stuff, and part of the reason behind that is, those cultures depend on where people settled, because have these racers that are just drawn from all over the world. They're drawn from every society, every culture, stuff like that. And people have a natural tendency to gravitate towards people of similar mindset. And the Westlands drew in a lot of people from, like during the 1800s and stuff, when there was other racers coming down here. They got here and they're like, oh, this is just like home. Let's settle down here. And of course, there wasn't a lot of people that stayed there that were coming through in the future. So they gained some things. They had train technology and stuff like that, but they didn't really advance a lot past the early 1800s. So they're still very much a Wild West type society. And the rail network in there covers pretty much the whole prairie section of that of that part of the trail, because this section of the trail is like this great big prairie. It goes from the edge of where the Four Kingdoms was up to just short of the border of Kestrel Weir. Not the actual operational area, that's huge, but the actual borders of Kestrel Weir are a lot smaller. They're a couple miles in every direction, and Westlands kind of goes up to there, because after you get past Kestrel, the landscape changes. It goes back to being kind of like this deciduous forest. So the Westlands stop, and pretty much the territory and everything and all the people in there stop, and then you get a whole different class of people going on beyond there, because then you start heading towards Forlorien, which is this. It's kind of it's somewhat mountainous. It's more like flatlands and foothills and short stuff. You know, your tallest hills are like 100 feet, maybe 100 feet, possibly 200. That's not really that big. It sits at the foot of the White Mountains. Let's see if I got... Nope, don't have that, so let's add that. Or go there. Oops. The White Mountains. Okay. The White Mountains are kind of like the Rocky Mountains. It's kind of the same layout, structure, tower, or peaks and all that kind of stuff. It's a great big mountain range, but it's not like this thin mountain range. It's fairly expansive. It goes... from the western side of Forlorien all the way over to the Great Sea. So pretty good size. It's got a gigantic swamp in there called the Deadly Sloughs. Let's see if I got that linked here. Yeah, there it is. It's got a great big creepy swamp there called the Deadly Sloughs. This was put in by the controllers to hinder people. Just like the Great Sea. It was there to hinder people, and the controllers did that intentionally. Yeah, it's about 2,400 square miles, so this is not a small swamp, and it's hard to navigate through. Which is by design. It's anything they can do to hinder people. So that sits up in there. You've got the mountains themselves. You got the upper levels where, literally, middle of summer, there's still snow on the ground. Patchy, but there's still snow on the ground. But yeah, Forlorien is run by an evil queen, or Venadoria, excuse me. Forlorien's her capital city. Venador is run by an evil queen named Narcella. She is flat out evil. And the funny thing is, she has kind of an unofficial partnership with Sheobal. And Sheobal is... what's funny is his name is actually a pun. Well, not a pun. It's a play on words. Very, very angry guy. Looks kind of like Shiva. He's a demon. This dude has just serious anger issues. He has... Let's see. Yeah, Azazel is his boss. I don't have a picture of him because I didn't do enough with Azazel to worry about a picture. He was just more textbook demon. Then you got Bathramel. He runs around in this black cloak. He's the rival to Sheobal. Those two, they're always at each other's throat, always trying to one up each other. Yeah, he kind of latches himself onto Simon early on. He's trying to wipe out Simon's team the whole race just about. That's that dude just gets a feather up his butt for Simon's team, and as much as he can, he's out there trying to destroy Simon's team. So, Sheobal plays a big part in this whole thing. But the thing is, Azazel is the name of an actual demon. Bathramel is as well. Sheobal is a play on words. If I remember correctly, the name came about as I'm trying to remember what Sheo is. I think Sheo was an abbreviation or a different way of saying Shiva. Or was it Shiva or was it Shiva? I think it was a different way of saying Shiva. And, I pronounce it Sheobal, but it's really Sheobaal. Because the second half is named after the demon god Baal from antiquity. So he's kind of Shiva and Baal mixed together. But anyways, that's him. Yeah, Azazel is his boss. Who else do I want? Oh, White Castle's kind of interesting too. This is the thing at the center of the city. You can kind of see it here in this example, but this is a little bit better example. It's just this great big super fortress in the center of the city. The city itself is fortified, but then the White Castle is like this additional fortification so that if you take the outer city, good luck with the castle. It does eventually get captured, but not by like an invading force. They kind of sneak in the back door and take the castle that way. Artheon, the rebel leader, is the one who takes that. Yeah, Narcella has, tries to seduce Simon, and when he basically when he tells her no, she pretty much has him beat within an inch of his life. That's just a very bad experience. And then they meet. I had one somewhere here. Okay, fine. I'll look it up the other way. There he is. Maul Ratnar. Yeah, forgive the image. That was the best I could come up with. I had a better one, but somehow lost that. I don't know where that one went to. So I went to my option 2 image. I have a better one than this, trust me. Or had one, but lost it. Anyways. And yes, it does look like that certain actor, but I can't help that. That was what image her Mid-Journey gave me, so since it was the closest one I could find, that's what I used. Anyways, Maul Ratnar is a retired controller. He used to be chief director of Section 17. The current chief director is his student, otherwise known as Agent 1. The thing with Section 17 is when you are an agent, you give up your name. You are agent number whatever. That is who you are the whole time you're in Section 17. When you leave Section 17... Oh, I did it again. Let me fix something real quick here. See, I told you to find broken stuff when you present things. There we go. Okay, anyways. Yeah, when you're an agent in Section 17, your name is agent and then your agent number. If you're chief director, you are Agent 1. Or just chief director. Usually just chief director. Because they depersonalize everybody who comes into Section 17. You are just one of the cogs in that organization. Very impersonal, very CIA, if you will. Very, kind of dark operators, if you will. I can't think of a better name right now. It's late. My brain's not working. But you know what I'm thinking of. It's like secret, like the super secret spy agencies and stuff, and how everybody's men in black is what I was thinking of. There we go. They're very Men in Black. They literally walk around dressed in solid black with the Ray-Ban sunglasses. They literally are the cliche cookie cutter Men in Black. So that's kind of who they are. And anyways, Maul is the previous chief director. He retired and retook his name. He's an interesting one because he's actually one of the good guys. You kind of question whether he is, because he has his own motives and his own reasons for doing things and his own way of doing things, which, he's kind of an anti-hero. He wants the best for things, but at the same time, the way he does them, you kind of go, yeah. So he's a very smart person. He can't hold a candle to Zek, but he gets the job done. He does a lot of good for the planet of Offworld. Now, the thing that's interesting about him is he also has wolves. He has a family of wolves that are tells, so they're all smart, but they're different levels of smart. You have the chief wolves. There's 6 of them. Angus, Broly, Targ, Sect, Tamarel, and Verg. Then you have the wolflings, which are these guys. They're basically regular-sized wolves. 2 of the known ones is Ika and Laika. I got 2 other ones in there. Spit, Growl, and Longnose. They're mentioned in After Offworld. I haven't done enough with them to add them to the wiki yet, but they're going to be they're going to play a major role in another book I'm working on called The Guardians of Offworld, which picks up after the After Offworld series. So there'll be more wolves popping in there because the Ratnar wolves are going to take on a new a new role. Yeah, I need to go to sleep after I get done with this video. I'm sitting here yawning like crazy. Anyways, they take on a whole new role because, by this point in time, their brothers, their direwolf brothers, are they're up there in years. They're like 350 years old, so they're really getting old. And when I say they're direwolf brothers, this is what I'm talking about. These dudes are big enough you can slap a saddle on them. They are literally like horse-sized, like Shire horse-sized. Okay, I don't have a picture for that. I have another reference image around here somewhere. I don't know what I did with it, but yeah, they are literally, if you look at this image, and I'll zoom in on it, this is one of my good reference images, and you see the guy standing next to him. You can see how big this dude is. Literally, you can take these guys now. You never see Angus like this, and you never see him with a saddle. But size-wise, yes, he's this big, and you can literally slap a saddle on him. He doesn't like it. He refuses to have one. He definitely will not have a bridle. He's a little bit anger management and kind of a brash character, but he's actually really cool. And he ends up, initially he was like really harsh and cruel to Simon and the others when they first enter the White Mountains. But as they go along and he kind of watches them, he goes along and he watches them and stuff and how they deal with things like in the Clement Valley and stuff. Angus kind of warms to him. He, even in the Clement Valley when he's still kind of distrusting of him, he actually goes to bat for them in one situation. More just as it's the opportune thing to do, it's the right thing to do, it's the best thing to do in that situation. Not like, hey, I like you guys, I'm going to help you out. This is the best way to do this situation, and we're going to go ahead and help you. So, but yeah, like I said, later on he comes to like him, and he actually helps him out, intentionally helps him out. Not like it's opportunistic to do that. It's, I like you guys, I'm helping you out. So he's still very anger management, even all the way up to the end of after Offworld. But it goes from being angry and how dare you come into my lands, you're a threat to the people I love and protect and stuff, to kind of the firm parent, I would call it. So yeah, he's very parental, I'll say it that way. And not parental to be mean, but parental because he cares for these people. So he's going to be very firm, very parental, very fatherly. Like, look, you need to square this away because I don't want to see you get hurt. So, he actually reveals himself to be a very nice person, just very protective of the people he loves. People he loves, his family, and so on and so forth. He ends up becoming kind of a, not a father figure, but a, well, I don't know. Maybe you could consider it a father figure, but he's becomes really good friends with Jurg, and especially after the race is won, the two of them become pretty decent friends. So, what else? Oh, speaking of tells, there's another one in here. I think I mentioned this in a different video, but there is a race of beings in this world called a biomechanoid. These are not living creatures. They are machines made of flesh and blood. They're androids, but they're androids that are made of flesh and blood. They're a human body, although not all tells are human. There are other kinds of tells, like the dragons. Not tells. Excuse me. There are other types of biomechanoids that are biomechanoids, but they're not, human. Human's the majority one, but there are other ones that are out there that are not human biomechanoids, like Let's see. Oh, Despawn, that's who it was. There he is. Like this guy. He is a biomechanoid, but he is also, he's a leopard subtype. That's what I was thinking of. He's a biomechanoid, but he's a leopard subtype. So there's humans, there's leopards, there's a variety of different subtypes of the biomechanoids. Manwan's an interesting one too. I'm not going to say much about him, but he's a pirate king, very vicious, ruthless dude. Yeah, great. The Great Sea, that's filled with what is that one? It's filled with sailing ships, is what I was thinking of. There's fun ones here, like the Kingdom of Grootwand, and yes, that is a pun. I am Groot. But in this case, it's I am Grootwand. But anyways, yeah, there's also neat ships out here like the Invictus Mineo. This one's kind of funny because it's what's called a semi-clad. It's a sailing ship. It's not a hybrid. There is actually a hybrid in here that Manwan has. I'm trying to remember what the name of that one was, but that one's kind of cool. It's a hybrid, which is a sailing ship and a steamship all in one. Yeah, you need to check that out in the book. That one's actually kind of cool. The Invictus Mineo is a wooden sailing ship, but it's called a semi-clad because what they did was they took the hull off, or they took the hull planks off of it, the outer hull planks, and they layered in half-inch plate steel. And it's all glued and everything sealed, tar sealed and all that, and then they put the wooden planks on it. What makes this special is the way that's set up with the wooden or metal planks against the wooden ribbing, and then the wooden planks over top of that. One, it does not look like it's a armored ship. It looks like it's a wooden ship, and it sails like a wooden ship. And the armor plate is from just below the waterline to just short of the top deck. It's called a semi-clad because of that, because it's kind of a hybrid of a sailing ship and an ironclad. What's special about that type of armor is it is pretty much a cannonball trampoline. Because of the wood is a bit spongy, but wood gives and flexes and stuff. The armor plating, that half-inch plate steel, does not. Cannonball comes in, hits there, goes boing, bounces right off. So it makes it pretty hard to kill that ship. You have to pretty much take out its rigging, and even then, the rigging will just stop it. It won't kill it, but it'll stop it. It's really, really, really hard to sink. And the other thing that makes it so scary is instead of black powder cannons like you'd have on a normal sailing ship, she has cartridge-fired cannons. Yes, you heard that right. She has cartridge-fired cannons. A good example of what one of those might look like is to look at the old World War II and Korean era Pak-110 that the U.S. Army had. Kind of the same idea. And this thing has 4 down each side, which you would figure, well, wouldn't you want to have more than it? Oh, are you kidding me? You take a weapon that's like a Pak-110, you put it on a sailing ship like this, and you fire it at another wooden ship. When those shells hit, they're not going to punch holes in the side. They're going to remove whole decks. Literally, the firepower this ship has will completely and totally just dismantle a wooden ship. It just blows it to pieces. Because they're not, you're not just throwing a solid cannonball at it, or cannonball with a punk in it and some black powder and hoping it doesn't bounce off the ship and detonate in the water. It actually detonates on impact and stuff, which a lot of times they didn't. So you just sit there and punch holes in the ship, and if one happened to get inside, hey, you got to win. You go detonate it and kill a bunch of people. But with this one, you've got actual kind of mini ball shells with actual detonators on the end, so that when it hits the side of that ship, it detonates. And just blows big sections out of the side of the ship. Or it can also fire a shell that has a split-second delay, so the shell goes through the side into the guts of the ship and then detonates. And that just does butt tons of damage. I mean, it just destroys it just literally just peels decks off and fun stuff like this. It should only take a couple of shells to sink a wooden ship. So, like I said, the Invictus Mineo, hence its name, bloody hard to kill, almost impossible to kill for a normal sailing ship. Normal sailing ship come up to this thing, and this thing will just eat it for breakfast. So, and there's only one of them, and it's kept under tight wraps because it is such a powerful super ship. And it's held by Grootwand, and Grootwand doesn't want anyone else to know it exists. They know, they want you to know that it exists, just not what it is and that it exists. So, yeah. Like I say, this thing literally will dismantle ships, or wooden ships anyways. And the TLDR story behind that is a bunch of guys came in that were racers that knew this technology. And they stopped in Grootwand. King happened to catch wind of them, because they stopped in Grootwand to kind of resupply. They stayed there over the winter. I'll have to remember to do that, because I got something else I want to show you that involves winter. But anyways, they stayed there in the winter, and they worked for a blacksmith, because that was, kind of what they were trained to do, was not really blacksmithing so much as manufacturing, fabrication. They had some military training. They had experience with this. They knew all those different things. And the king happened to catch wind of them, and he brings them up, and they're like, yeah, we know all this technology. We know how to build this and that and stuff like this. And he hired them, and they started creating weapons for him, and they started creating technology, and they spawned the idea of the Invictus Mineo and all this other stuff. And they ended up staying in Grootwand the rest of their lives. This is before the current king. This was the king's Vegilus. It was his dad who hired them, and they built the Invictus, and then Vegilus took over, and he kept the Invictus and kept it up. He did the upkeep on it and made sure it was kept secret and all this kind of stuff, because it was, it's such a powerful super ship when you're talking about wooden sailing ships, that he didn't want people finding out and building their own, and then that would take away all the advantage and would threaten his other ships, and it was too expensive, and he doesn't have a big kingdom. So that was kind of the ace in the hole if you ever ran into a big problem. And if I remember my notes correctly, the Invictus only ever went out twice and fired shots in anger. The first one was against Despon, and the other was against a troublesome neighbor that was giving him problems, so he took the Invictus out and solved that problem real fast. So, yeah, the Invictus was not one that was, the big stick and he was going to brutalize everybody and conquer himself. No, the Invictus was one of those, we got nothing else that's going to solve this problem, so let's bring out the big toy. Let's see. Yeah, Grootwand is an interesting one, because it's kind of, as far as the kingdom goes, it's kind of a city-state and kind of not, because you have the capital city of Roosburg, but then you also have a lot of other smaller cities that surround it. There's the Copper Cup, which is an inn that Simon and the others stayed at. That scene's actually really interesting. You should check that one out when you get a chance to. This is an interesting one right here. Giant mountains. This is literally full of actual giants. Some of you might know them as Nephilim, which is how I refer to them in the book, is that they're Nephilim, the giants of antiquity. And that's why it's called the Giant Mountains, because it's full of these guys. Let's see here. The Great Sea. Oh, here's another one. Is out here in this area is Riathrin Weir. You've got Jethal, who's about the same age as Zach, and he's a contemporary. They grew up together. And Jethal ended up moving out to what was the Weir? Oh, that's right. It was Riathrin. Durr. Again, I need sleep. Rathan's an interesting dragon, because he is the chief flight instructor of Riathrin Weir. He's about 911 years old or so. So he's an oldie. Usually with dragons, once they pass 900, they retire from regular service, and they become either elders or they just retire. Elder, Weirmaster, or they retire. And the way the Weir works is you have the Weirmaster. He's in charge of everything. He's kind of the president of the Weir, if you will, or king, whichever way you want to look at it. He's chosen by the Weir, usually by the elders, but sometimes the Weir itself can have say in it. Then you have the elders underneath him. So basically, when they hire the Weir Master, they're hiring their boss, because they have a say in things too. I mean, they can fire him if they have to. Generally, though, once he's promoted, he stays there till he dies, or he steps down. But generally, the Weir Master and the elders work together because it's just to their advantage to work together rather than fighting each other. And it's like, why put a guy up in there that you're going to just fight? So it doesn't help you any. So usually they'll have, like, the elders will handle one set of things around the Weir, or they'll handle different parts of it. The Weir Master oversees everything. He's especially the 2 orders that are under his charge, daily operations, things like that. And then, of course, you have the fighting orders, and beyond the fighting orders, you have the families, and so on and so forth. Rathan is cool because Fallon borrows him for a little bit, and what am I thinking of? Yeah, he's still flight instructor when Simon's team comes through, and Fallon borrows him because Fallon can't fly. He's an immature dragon, so he has a couple of stumpy wings with some pin feathers on them, so he can't really use them. They're immature wings, so they don't work. I mean, he can fall with style, but that's about it. Let's see here. Oh, going back to biomechanoids, that's right. Since we're backed up to here, I'll pick this up again. Yeah, I don't squirrel much, right? Squirrel! This guy is interesting. I don't have a better picture of him. I picture him more as like Captain Kidd, not this cheesy Halloween costume. But, yeah, Hector Barbosa was the guy who he's actually modeled after. The guy from Pirates of the Caribbean. That's who I modeled or used as the character model because I needed that type of personality, that type of language and speaking and things like that. So I used Barbosa as the character model. Just like, like I was saying with Land of the Lions with Pharaoh Black, I used the Cardinal from the 1980s Three Musketeers because I needed that particular type of personality and character and mental image to create the character correctly. Well, that's what I did with this guy. And Ebenezer's really interesting. You don't see him much. You see him primarily in Book 3, and then you don't see him after that. But the short time you see him, he's an interesting character, and you'll like him. He's kind of cool. He doesn't interact with any of the other major characters, other than he just kind of... You see him when Simon's team first comes up to the Reaping Sea because they get on his ship, which unfortunately sinks. But he's a biomechanoid, so he was able to survive because the controllers kind of still needed him, even though he carried the guys that they were trying to kill and they sank his ship. So anyways, yeah, he is actually very instrumental in a lot of things, and he even helps restart all of the, restart the movements westward of all of the racers that are trapped on the eastern side of the sea because of the Four Kingdoms. So when the Four Kingdoms go away, he's kind of helping the locals get past the mayor who doesn't want anybody to leave because he's afraid if all of the racers take off, he's going to, his town's going to empty out and he's going to lose a whole bunch of money and become a pauper and stuff like this. So he ends up being very instrumental kind of in the politics of the town, trying to override the mayor and getting the race restarted with all of these people that need to get back out on the race. He works in Donville, which was that small town I was telling you about in the Reaping Sea where Arthur and Dexter are at. You don't see a lot of biomechanoids. The other ones that you do see, let me see if I have their names. Yeah, okay, you have Mitch, Nagarman. Who's Nagarman? I forgot who he was. Oh, yeah, okay, he's the subordinate for Mitch. Meltok. Oh, there's a guy that, yes, this is the best one I could come up with for this, but this guy is basically a mutant moose / guerrilla combination, and he is evil. You got him and his Gramoots. See if I got a picture for them. Nope, don't have them. Okay. Yeah, basically the Gramoots are these little guys that are about half his size that are just these evil little minions. They're just nasty suckers. You run into them in the City of Mist, so I'll show that one to you real quick here. This one's kind of interesting because this is an abandoned city in the middle of the Deadly Sloughs that there's a long story behind why it was abandoned, but Meltok runs into Simon's team and tricks them into going into the City of Mists, and then tries to use the city to kill them, just like all the other racers he's deceived before them. And well, long story short, it doesn't work out for them. But you know, I'm not spoiling that. I'm just saying it doesn't work out for them the way they thought it would work out for them. Really, you got to read it because it's a really cool fight scene, because it's kind of this rolling fight scene through this abandoned city of stone buildings and stuff like that. And then Angus and his wolflings get involved, and the dragons get involved. It's cool. It is a really neat scene. Lots of good action, fighting, and other stuff like this, and some interesting strategy too, because, you know, given the disadvantages they have, it's kind of cool how the whole thing plays out. It's really neat. It's totally worth the read. But yeah, he's one of the bad guys they run into in the Deadly Sloughs, and when he finally gets offed, everybody's like, yes, you know. And I mean, come on, bad guy. And Simon's over there, you know, Simon's the plow. What do you think is going to happen to him? He's going to die. And not all of the villains do, but a bunch of them do. Let's see. What was one of the other ones? Yeah, this is another one that's up in the White Mountains. That's kind of fun. This is the next guy, one of the next guys that they run into. I keep saying Demisne, but I think somebody said it was Domain. It's supposed to be pronounced Domain. But anyways, it's this one here. That we'll call it the Domain of Caspar. I don't know exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced, but basically it's otherwise known as the Kingdom of Thieves. This guy is a robber baron. He rules a large section of the White Mountains, and Maul has wanted to get rid of him for a long time, but the controllers are like, oh, we can use this guy. So Maul couldn't get rid of him. So what he does is he basically tricks Caspar into getting themselves destroyed by the controllers. But in the meantime, you have you have Deben, you know, who's a robber baron king. Yeah, that sucks, but that was the best image I could come up with. But basically, that's him. He's this guy that, you know, he's so greedy and so gold, you know, so he's got the gold bug so bad he would have, you know, gold color, or he would have golden armor. He would have a gold plated or solid gold bathtub, whichever you could get. You know, he's just, oh, and he's super oppressive. He has, you know, he lives in the fortified city of Parsum, which just sits up in the mountains, and it's this impregnable fortification. If you go to, let's see. Those Dark Wanderings. Okay. Yeah, I have it on. Okay, needs to be bigger. Anyways, in this here you have the cover here. Parsum's here. It's kind of hiding behind this hillside, but Parsum's right here. It's up in the mountains, and it's this little fortification that, you know, kind of like this. It sits up on the hillside. And it's a dickens of a fortification to breach. I mean, it's pretty much impregnable. And that's the city of Parsum. And literally, he goes around to all these villages and cities and other stuff like this. And there are basically two classes of people in his kingdom. There is the super rich that are his, you know, the people who make him the money. They're the warlords and stuff like this. The people who gather all of the money. Well, I shouldn't say they're all super rich, but they're, wealthy, very wealthy, super wealthy, and stupidly wealthy. And on the other side is the peasants, which he exploits. And they are so hungry, they would eat their own dead if they thought it would save them. I mean, they're skin and bones. That's one of the first things that Simon runs into when he comes into that. He initially runs into Thancred. Yeah, I didn't have enough on him to make its own page, but he's the head guy, one of the head guys. He's a commander of the Parkour band, and he is cruel, straight up cruel. Then again, so is pretty much everybody in this domain of Caspar. Heimart's his right hand man, and they and their soldiers run around and just torment people, and they will, even if people have nothing, they will still come in there and try to take everything from them. They're that kind of they're that level of evil. If all you've got is a moldy piece of bread, they will take that moldy piece of bread from you. So that's who they are. But the scene that when you first introduce to them and their soldiers and stuff, the scene that goes with that in the village is really neat. There's a cool little fight at the beginning between Simon's team and some of Thancred's men, and you'll love it. You got who is it? You've got Barash going boss mode and all kinds of fun stuff. I just realized how late I am. I'm actually 7 minutes over, and I apologize for that. I was getting into this so much I lost track of time. So, anywho, I'm going to just stop this here. I'm sorry I ran you guys over 7 minutes, but I'll stop this here. We'll go ahead and pick up with this next time, and we'll start covering some of the other stuff that's in here. And like I say, I'm just doing light brushing over everything that's in here. But anyways, as usual, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments section below. I'm always open to people's feedback. Thanks.